All right, so I got a request to do a review of the What About the Gender Workplace Hours Gap video that came out a while ago, almost 2 years ago now. And this video was one that I didn't pay much attention to, not because it's a bad video, but because I think it pretty much speaks for itself, so I didn't feel like I needed to respond to it. But, you know, hey, one of my viewers said, please do a response to this. So let's take a look and see what it has to say. Now, this is in Australia. But before we do, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. I ask you to watch the video to the very end because that helps the algorithm. Furthermore, if the algorithm is intentionally, if YouTube is intentionally throttling back my videos so they're not getting the views that they deserve, please share this with as many people as possible so I can get the word. I'm trying to get to 100 subscribers by the end of the year.
All right. On another issue, what is the gender workplace hours gap? The agency reports a workplace gender pay gap comparing male full-time employees and female full-time employees, but male full-time employees work longer hours on average than female full-time employees. And the agency doesn't account for this when reporting the workplace gender pay gap.
Using ABS data.
Okay, so right there you go. Everything was said right there. He said, what is the workplace hours gap? Men on average work more hours than women on average. And for some reason there's a pay gap between men and women. Do you suppose that may be because men work more hours? Yeah. Let's go back for a second here and see what she has to say from the beginning.
Using ABS data on employee earnings and hours, the gender pay gap as at May 2016 was 15.7%. It is a survey of employees, that information from the ABS. It's not a census, and it's only conducted every 2 years. They only collect the data every 2 years. What we do
Doo-doo. Doo-doo.
Duties. Duties.
I know that was a very childish joke of me to insert in there, but I might as well have fun while I'm here, right? And yes, childish humor does make me laugh. Don't worry. I'm an adult when it matters.
we annualise our figure to full-time. So we look at all part-time employees and full-time employees that may have worked part of a 12-month period, and we annualise that data to take into account part-time hours.
Okay, so the annualization of this makes the data easier to understand. So what they do is if you work, say, for an entire year, half-time, so 20 hours a week, and you make $20,000 in that year, they just say, okay, well, you know, the math comes out that you would make $40,000 a year if you worked full-time. And it's the same with any other, that's just an example. So if you work for 3 months and you make $10,000, and that was a part-time job, you're considered a part-time employee because it was a temporary job, seasonal job or whatever, well, then they'll just say, okay, well, you made $10,000 in 3 months, so if you worked the entire year, that would be $40,000. They're just making it all one, you know, for looking at an entire year, what you would make if you worked an entire year, just makes it easier to look at the numbers. So far, everything is fine. They haven't said anything wrong, other than one small thing, which is they're relying on self-reporting, which, in my experience, women report less income than men, just hands down, period. In addition to women reporting less income, and I'll talk about that in more detail a little bit later on, women are more likely to work part-time, and they talk about this, but part-time employees are more likely to make less money, to earn less money per hour. I've worked at jobs where I was a part-time employee, and I was making per hour between 10 and 25% less than the average employee. I've done this multiple times because, for whatever reason, a company will stipulate that you know, hey, look, you're a part-time employee, this is what we pay our part-time employees. If you were a full-time employee, we would pay you X number of dollars. I worked as a temp employee. I got a job at the temp agency. They were paying me 20% less than they were paying starting employees who walked into the office. And I didn't even know about the company. The only reason I knew about the company was because of the temp agency. So if I had known about the company, I would have just walked in and applied for the job. But, you know, that's how they do things. So if women are going to work more part-time jobs, they're going to make less per hour. But we don't have any of that data, and maybe that's not true in Australia. I don't know. Maybe in Australia you have to pay an hourly employee the same if they're part-time or full-time. It's a law or something. I don't know. I don't work or live in Australia, so.
So therefore we're converting the part-time hours to full-time, if you like.
So do you take into account the fact that on average a male full-time employee works longer hours than a female full-time employee?
Not directly, no.
You don't?
Okay, well then there's your problem. That's why you have a 15% wage gap. But that's it. There's no other reason for that happening. You could just say that's it and move on.
But we annualise the part-time hours and those that have worked full-time but for part of the year. So that way, because at the moment, what I can tell you is women work part-time at 3 times the rate of men.
Mm.
So by annualising it, we are looking at a more realistic...
So you base it on annual salary?
Yeah.
What about if you did it on an hourly rate? What would be the gender hourly pay gap?
Well, we don't have that data, Senator.
You don't?
Well, there you go. You don't have that data because that data is going to be impossible to find in actuality. They're going to trump up some numbers, however you want to say it, and make it look like men are just earning more per hour. Like I said, I was going to talk about this. Here we go. I used to work as a waiter, as a server. We call them, right, servers. We've got to be PC, server. And the women I worked with, and I did this for years. I did this for almost 5 years. I worked in restaurants for 9 years of my life, so I was around this. The women don't claim all their tips. They claim about 50% of their tips. 50% of their tips. That's it. You want to say that women are earning less? Well, no, they're just claiming less. They're just saying that they make less. I claimed all my tips. I always claimed all my tips. And so it looks like I'm earning twice what a woman's making in tips. I'm earning twice what a woman's earning in tips. And it wasn't like that. It was more like I might be earning a little bit more, maybe 5% more, maybe. But usually what I saw was the women did really well. And the women usually got larger groups of people. Therefore, they would get a bigger tip that way. And also, they would get a lot more men who would be like, oh, you're cute. Here's an extra $5. So women are actually earning a lot more in the service industry in that regard as far as food service, in my experience.
Have that data?
No, because we ask for annualised salaries and from our employers when they report their data in.
Okay, so if a woman was working fewer hours but earning the same rate per hour as a man doing the same job, would that show up as a gender pay gap?
No.
But well, then in that case, you are looking at hourly rates.
See, boom, bombshell right there. They say we're not looking at a difference in pay per hour, but yet there's a 15% difference in what men make as compared to what women make when we annualize everybody's salary. But we're not accounting for men working more hours. Well, then it's an hourly pay gap, but you don't have any information to back that up. And the reason you want to kind of deflect this is what you're going to see her do now is because you don't and it's going to go to a different girl even, but you don't have the information that this man is asking for. He is a member of the Senate, I believe.
Janine Budov, Research and Analytics Executive Manager. So we do not collect the real hours.
Okay, there you go. We do not collect the real hours. No, you don't. But look at this group right here. I don't know if these people do. I don't think these people are all in the same group. But it looks like they're all women. The person way in the back in the blue might be a man. It looks like they're all women. So it's all women pushing for these policies, and it's all about equality. It's all, we're equal. Yet they can't actually bring the proper data to the table to say that they're equal. And this isn't actually, I've said this before, this is not about the genders being equal. This is about women being superior, and we see this happening now in France. Look what happened in France. Women are on top. They got power. So what happened was they got in France, the law is you have to have equal representation in these offices in the government. And well, they have 69% of one of these offices is female. And so they got fined, and they said, it's fine, we'll pay it. If this is what we have to do, fine. We're going to use the taxpayers' dollars, which pay our salaries because we're government officials, and we're going to use taxpayer dollars to pay this fine. So taxpayers are paying to allow female supremacy, and female supremacy is a problem because of things like this.
You hate ICE?
Yes.
Why do you hate ICE?
Because I think that that's ridiculous that you're gonna block out people that coming into the country that we are founded on immigrants. So how are you gonna take them out?
Do you think there's a difference between legal immigrants and illegal immigrants?
For sure, but I don't think that it's right to build a wall.
Do you think illegal immigration is a big problem? Like you talk about education and stuff, and illegal immigrants take advantage of these programs that the taxpayers pay for.
I don't think illegal immigrants take advantage of things like free healthcare, free education by any means.
What are your thoughts on ICE?
I mean, they keep illegal immigration to a minimum, and that's good.
What do you think about ICE?
The organization? They're just doing their job.
I like the organization a lot. I think it's really important to maintaining a free state that we enforce the laws of our country.
In a way, that job in itself in every country is a necessary job.
Immigration is an issue because we can't support the entire world in our country. But
We need to just have open borders and let everyone in, okay?
who's going to pay for that?
So the women will argue feelings instead of facts, and as you can see, the men were arguing facts instead of feelings. And that's the problem, is that women will argue their feelings instead of going, hey, you know what, this is going to be the best possible option for everyone.
That an employee might have worked. So what we do collect is the hours that are specified in a contract, and that is provided by organizations to us. If that makes sense.
Yeah. But I mean, do you annualise it on the assumption that men and women are working the same number of hours, or is it actual earnings?
It's actual earnings, and we are unable to. We don't have the data to distinguish or to then adjust for hours, because we cannot collect the real hours that employees are working.
So it's not possible to tell whether any or some of the gender pay gap is just simply attributable to a different number of hours worked. Is that right?
It depends on whether we're looking at hours that are in contract, or whether we're looking at hours that employees worked as, overtime.
Why is it you don't look at hours worked? You don't collect it, but the ABS does. It's available.
The ABS does a survey, yes.
Every 2 years.
Yes.
But again, as I say, we collect census data, that is survey data. And the other thing I would say at this stage, Senator, is just because somebody might be sitting at their desk for 12 hours a day doesn't mean you're getting 12 hours of productivity out of them, and doesn't mean that they're working in essence any harder than someone that may sit at their desk for 8 hours. So
No, you're right. It doesn't mean that, but it also, you can't say that they're not, though. I mean, maybe a person who sits at their desk for 12 hours a day actually puts in 12 hours of hard work. Maybe they put in more work per hour than the person who sits at their desk 8 hours a day. So you can't even use that as an argument, because you don't know. You can't go around and assess the level of work completed by each employee in Australia. How are you going to do that? You can't. And not saying that women can't work hard and don't work hard, but in my experience, women work less hard than men do. It's not all women that I have come across. It's not all women in the world, I'm sure. But on average, women don't work as hard as men do at any job.
So I don't think...
That's true, but they're getting paid for the 12 whether they're doing any work, or they're getting paid for however many hours they're sitting at their desk. And the issue for your agency is that if it's a male sitting at a desk, they're getting paid more than a female sitting at a desk. So the question is whether that, irrespective of the hours, the question is whether for those hours for which they're getting paid, is there a difference between men and women? So
we don't collect information on ours, Senator.
ABS does, so it's available. So if we put in a question on notice, will you access the ABS data and so you can answer that question?
Well, I did answer it earlier. I said that the ABS employee and earnings and hours data, as at May 2016, the gender pay gap was 15.7%.
That, if I understood you correctly, that's referring to annualised salary, is that right?
Not.
What's the gap based on? Per hourly rates or annual incomes or annualised incomes, or what are we talking about here?
Okay. The EEH data, so that's the employee earnings and hours data, includes all employees regardless of employment status and reflects ordinary time cash earnings. The EEH survey produces hourly earnings for non-managers and can be used to produce a gender pay gap measure inclusive or exclusive of part-time employees. The EEH data can also be configured in a variety of other ways that are useful to the gender pay gap estimates, e.g. managerial versus non-managerial employees. The big drawback from where we sit is that EEH data was identified as being, is just done on a 2-year cycle.
I don't think I can think of many men who would find it acceptable that a woman, irrespective of how many hours she's working in the day, if she's doing the same amount of work as a man, or the same job as a man, was paid any less on the basis that she's a woman. I can't think of any men who would support that. And yet, because you're not looking at hours, we don't know whether that's occurring or not. Am I right there?
That's it. Nail in coffin. You're done.
Senator, I think at this stage, as I've said to you, we are unable to collect and analyse that data. There are other countries, of course, that do that, and we will...
Not even every 2 years with the ABS survey data? You could do it at least every 2 years.
And I gave you the figure of 15.7% based on the calculation that we last did.
What's the 15.7 reflect?
So what I was about to say, Senator, is I'm happy to take that question on notice and go back and look at that last calculation that we did and provide you with the workings on that.
But you didn't. You haven't done that. You haven't come back and said, hey, look, women are being paid less per hour for the same work that men are doing. That's been illegal in the United States since 1964. Now, that doesn't mean it doesn't happen, and I'll tell you why. If I go to a company and I say, I really want to work here, I really need a job and I really want to work here, and what you do if you really want a job at a company, or if you really want a job, period, and you just say, look, there's this company and I want to get a job there, it's fine. Do some research on that company so you can throw stuff at them and be like, I love how you did X, Y, and Z over here, and I like this product, I like that service, whatever. But you go to the company and you say, look, I really want to work here, and this is why. And say, look, how much are you paying? What is the average starting salary for the position I applied for? And they say, well, it's $20 an hour. Be like, look, I'll do it for 15. I'll do it for 15. And that is perfectly legal. It has absolutely nothing to do with my gender. It has to do with me wanting the job and being willing to work for less money. Right? You negotiate your pay. You go, hey, look, I want to work here. Let me work here for, $12 an hour. Let me work here for $28 an hour. I negotiated my pay on a contract, not at this job, but at a previous job that I had, when they moved me up to, again, here we go. This is an example of me making less money. When they moved me to full-time, I said, okay, you move me to full-time, I'm getting more money, right? Per hour. They said, yeah, you're going to get more money per hour. And so you negotiate your pay, and I negotiated that. I was like, you're not gonna pay me $20 an hour to do this job. Pay me $23. So, and I worked my way up to a lot more than that at that job, but then that didn't work out. You can do these jobs, and you can do them for less money than what they pay. These women here, they want to take control. That's what they want to be on top. It's nothing to do with wanting to be equal, because you're actually never going to get women to be equal in the economy. You're never going to have men and women equal in the economy. How would you even measure that. And even if you could measure it, it's always going to come out wrong, because there's always going to be a tiny bit one way or the other. It's always going to be a tiny bit one way, no matter what you do. It's always going to be, oh, this year, 50.01% of the labor force was male. That's not fair. We got to, get more women. It's like, and it shouldn't be. Women should not be working. For the most part, women should be staying home and raising the kids. Somebody has to raise them. Why do you want to send all the women to work? Just watch the documentary by Mark Reich. Maybe you've seen it advertised here on YouTube. Not Mark Reich. Robert Reich. Maybe you've seen it advertised here on YouTube. It's called Everybody's Unequal or something like that. Check it out. It's a good look at economics in the United States and what's been happening. So anyway, this perfect example of people, you bring a knife to a gunfight, depending on how close you are to the person with the gun, that could be we could win, but the old saying, you bring a knife to a gunfight, don't come unprepared. If you're going to go in and try to get your way in a situation like this, when you're talking about legislation, make sure you have all your facts and figures ready to go. And you're ready to say, look, here it is, black and white. Men are being paid more per hour than women in this industry, and, or all across the board or whatever. Men are not being paid more than women in, say, I don't know, the porn industry. Yeah, there you go. There's one industry where men get paid less. Anyway, thank you for watching. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe. I hope I see all of you again. And if I'm not back next week, have a Merry Christmas.